Good.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order.
You're lucky you're my best friend.
I'd like to call the February 18th Planning Commission meeting to order. We have a quorum. Ms. Jaco, anybody scheduled for public comments?
No, sir.
All right. Moving on, we need to approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2026 Planning Commission regular meeting and the February 4th, 2026 Planning Commission City Council Joint Conceptual Workshop meeting. Anybody have any changes or amendments to the minutes?
So move. Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone on the Planning Commission have any reason to want to pull any of these items off and discuss? Or do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Abstain.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is plats and plans. The first item on that section is Perkins Motorplex, site plan for a motor vehicle sales dealership with 230 square feet, building on 1.82 acres, zoned light industrial, located along Beasy Road. Perkins Automotive is the developer. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon, Chairman Halliburton and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. This next application before you is for Perkins Motorplex. It's a 3,230 square foot motor vehicle sales dealership located along Beasy Road. Also has visibility from Interstate 24. Property is located across from Costco on Beasy Road, right in the curve area. Staff has reviewed the plan. It's generally in good order. And staff would request that any approval be made subject to staff comments.
And we did make sure that they incorporated the required loading zone so that they could accommodate the loading and unloading of vehicles on site.
And you read my mind.
It's always in the top of our minds when we get an automobile dealership.
What do we know about the intersection of Beasy and Warrior as of right now, about the roundabout or a signal or anything like that? Because if you're coming out of this car dealership going back towards Warrior, it's almost impossible to turn left.
Mr. Wright, I know our Public Infrastructure Division has been working on that. I don't know the latest of that. I apologize that we do not have that information, but we can certainly get that for you.
Okay.
Matt might have a comment on that, if that's okay.
We're in the process of designing that. We've got the survey done, got the initial layout done, so we've got to finish the detailed design work. I don't know anticipated construction schedule.
Okay. But it's in the process.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I will say, Mr. Blomley mentioned the loading zone. We've planned for that, and it'll be on site. He said he didn't bring any big semis. They get driven in from other locations, so, but it is planned for.
Thank you, Matt.
And what we do is we require that anyway, just because it may not always be Perkins Motorplex, it may be a different car dealership. We want to make sure that's there on site in the event that it's needed.
Makes sense. Any other questions for the applicant or Mr. Barbie? If there are none, do we have a motion?
So moved, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is 7 Brew Coffee, a site plan for an 817 square foot coffee kiosk on .69 acre zone commercial highway located along Memorial Boulevard Who Brew Tennessee One LLC is the developer. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon again, Chair and Planning Commission. This next application before you is for an 817 square foot coffee kiosk by 7 Brew Coffee. It's located on Memorial Boulevard, just to the west of the Starplex and to the east of Memorial Boulevard. Primary access will be to Memorial Boulevard. This site will also have available access to the private drive on the east side that parallels the Starplex Public Park area. The site is generally in good order, and staff would request that any approval be made subject to staff comments.
Any questions for Mr. Barbie or the applicant? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Aye. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. Next item on our agenda is Chipotle in the West Lawn subdivision site plan for 2,383 square foot restaurant with drive-through on .85 acres, zone PUD, located along Veterans Parkway. CSC Properties LLC is the developer. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon again. This application before you, as you stated, is for a Chipotle location. It's approximately 2,383 square feet on .85 acres. We'll have a drive-through associated with it. Primary access is along Veterans Parkway. It will also, again, have an access point planned north side to the private driveway to also allow circulation. The plan is generally in good order, and staff would again request that any approval be made subject to staff comments.
Any questions for Mr. Barbie or the applicant?
If not, I move for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. The next item is Flat Rock 22 townhomes, site plan for 22 attached dwelling units in 7 buildings on 2.6 acres, zone RM16, located along Flat Rock Road. Modern Built is the developer. Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. As you can see on the above aerial, this particular project is currently one parcel that actually fronts onto both Halls Hill Pike and Flat Rock Road. The portion on Flat Rock Road is the RM16 parcel. That's part of the project for 22 townhome type units. As stated there, the density for the proposal is at 8.46 dwelling units to the acre, and the proposed mix is 8 two-bedroom units and 14 three-bedroom units. When we're looking at the layout of the project based on the RM16, the project complies with all components of the underlying zone district that's outlined in Chart 2. And of special note is the parking. Each of those 22 condos has one car space, and there's 51 surface spaces for a total of 73. And based on that mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, 64 spaces is the requirement. And should, for whatever reason over time, the office spaces convert into bedroom spaces, they would be meeting the requirements of the bulk zone 73 spaces to the 73 spaces shown on the site.
Can I stop you there?
Sure can.
So are you saying that if the office was converted to a bedroom, they already meet the parking standards based upon this plan?
Correct. So
Okay.
they're right at 73, so it requires 1.1 parking stall per bedroom. So if they were all 3 bedrooms, that's 3.3 times that 22 gets you to the 73.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I figure that's always the biggest question you all have, so staff always makes sure that we meet that requirement. And as you can see here on the site plan layout, most of the sides, it's a very awkwardly shaped lot, but it does have basically a type D, as in David, 15-foot buffer area along most of the frontages, so basically anywhere where it's adjacent to an RM, which is county's medium-density residential, we require a type D landscape buffer, so you'll see it here, here, and on these sides, and that's where it fronts onto those spaces. And then in this area, here and here, that's currently part of the existing parcel, those will be type A buffers with 10 feet on each of those locations. This particular one does show the layout of the units, but more helpful, and in your packet, we did receive a updated page that shows how many units per building. So the thing that staff was looking at for your purposes, let me get to the right project, this goes quick. Is that each building, when we looked at it, we wanted to make sure that the parking was directly adjacent to the building in which it was located. So here you'll notice they've broken out every building type, how many bedroom units, whether is it 2 or 3 in that, and then how many parking spaces are provided versus how many are required. So by keeping that mix that they have of the 2 and 3 bedrooms, the parking is either within their garage or directly adjacent to those spaces. And what you'll also notice, and staff got a clarification of, is we wanted to make sure that all of the parking spaces, such as here, have a straight back out for that area, so that should somebody be parking next door, they're not going to block those cars that are parked in the garage from getting out of the units. So we wanted to, again, make sure that tandem is allowed. And we do see it oftentimes where they'll park 2 cars directly in back, and in this particular area, they've also provided kind of a sidewalk area directly in back of it to provide some additional room, so that if somebody's parked outside the garage, they can walk along the front side of all of these buildings for a good, clear ADA access in and around those sites. They are looking at phasing the development with really just pulling out this portion and this back portion as phase 2 of the project, but they would still be required to have this egress that loops in and back out. That provides your fire access, so that would be required in their phase 1 with the project, but that allows those kind of last 3 buildings to be built at a second phase in their project site. When we're looking at the landscaping, you can see here base of building plantings are around each of the buildings, as well as those buffers we talked about. From a formal open space and a regular open space, here you can see the 2 areas where the formal open space is put in place, here with walking trail and benches, and at this location a dog park with picnic tables and barbecue grills to serve the 22 units on the project site. And in looking at it, one of the things that we did receive today, and I think the staff report had talked about originally, not knowing how much space that these garages are. Anytime you have a RM16, the garages don't automatically count unless you record a legal document that states no storage of anything basically other than the car in the garage would be allowed. But what we did receive is these details, and there's really 3 different unit types when you look at the floor plans. And so when you're looking at the garage spaces, these spaces are a minimum of 11 feet 8.5 inches by 21 feet is the smallest, which exceeds our city standard, and that's clear. And then you'll notice kind of this little hashed out area, and so staff asked for, and I'll be showing you a detail on it, but what this represents is that stair that's going from the first level to the second level. So we wanted to make sure that those were clear. They weren't going to cause a problem for the person getting out of the car to walk straight, to the house structure. And you can see that also here we have a 13-foot, 10-foot wide by 23 deep, again meeting those requirements. This one has just a hatch for some additional storage space that's above the garage in the second unit, and then this one mimics a lot of that first unit. But this gives you a detail of what that looks like on the inside. Staff wanted to make sure that the opening that you're able to back your car into, that this line basically stays in line with that opening. So if you can fit a car into it, you can fit it underneath the stairwell section, and it would be clear, not obstructing those garage structures. As we are looking at the various components, they did update these pages just to not show any porches. Originally, there were porches kind of penciled in front of the garages, and that's not the case. It's just a sidewalk that's in front of it, but there is room, should they choose to do like a porch off the front of the house, that can go 5 feet deep. But they have not provided any input on that, but those are your individuals. And then last but not least, as staff looked at the updated floor plans and the civil plans, those two are now consistent with each other, and there's just some cleanup work to be done on the elevation pages. And what I mean by that is you saw that the tightness of the site, in some areas, you would have two garages here lined up, and then the garages lined up here next to each other rather than what it's shown on the drawing. But you would still get that same look, the same materials, I think the same kind of roof clearances on the project site, but staff wanted to make you all aware of it because that would be a page that we would make consistent with the floor plans and the civil plans for the site. And then basically they're using a brick and two different types of hardy, a board and batten, as well as a regular horizontal siding for the building, and then shingled roofs, and those lower roof sections have a standing seam roof structure that are on those pop-out features. And I think that covers, and the only suggestion staff would have, if you're fine with staff working with the applicant to get the elevations where they need to be, we would suggest that we update planning comments 8A to basically state that they be consistent with the floor plans and elevations that we've presented at the meeting. So it's really just matching it to the floor plans. And then they would actually, we believe that 8B and 8C have now been addressed. And last but not least, on the final plat, we just want to make a reference that those recorded documents would be referenced in the final plat about the garage restrictions and be included in the CC&Rs approved by the city. So with that, if you have any questions, the applicant is here with their engineer, and this is not a public hearing, it's just a regular site plan review.
Any questions for Ms. Smith or for the applicant?
I'm going to abstain from all discussion and vote.
None for me.
I'll just make a comment. I appreciate the fact that the applicant is including enough spaces if these things were the third room that we're calling an office and the two-bedroom townhomes converts to a bedroom, because that could easily happen. So I just want to compliment you for taking that into consideration. All right, with that said, anybody else have any questions or comments, or are we ready for a motion?
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Overwater.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Abstain.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
And that was with those minor changes staff brought up as well in the motion.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
seeing all the heads nod.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is 3 Leagues, a site plan for commercial development with 4 retail restaurant buildings totaling 31,574 square feet and 5 self-storage buildings totaling 72,320 square feet on 11.32 acres, Zone PCD, located along Fortress Boulevard and Blaze Drive. 9th Station Properties LLC is the developer. Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon again, Chair and Commissioners. This particular project, actually, I can't take all the credit for. Richard Donovan kind of shepherded the majority of this project, so I just got to do the last lifting for the project. So one, I apologize for the lateness on some of the architecture that you might have just seen yesterday night, but staff will go through those items so that you have the information necessary to make a determination. This particular site, as you can see here, is at the corner of Fortress and Blaze. It abuts the Puckett Creek area, and a portion of it has floodway and 100-year floodplain in these upper sections of the project site. And you can see on both sides of the river, we've got kind of that 100-year floodplain and a portion of the floodway along the project. This particular project was a part of a PCD back in 2017, and back in 2017, what they had looked at is they really just provided a comment that said self-storage in this area, but then they also specified that the maximum building coverage would be 147,000 square feet, and with the 72,000 of proposed storage and the 32,000 roughly of proposed retail space, that meets those thresholds that were in the PCD. Additionally, the PCD, most of the uses that are listed in the use table, they do not have, that I know of, lined up persons for the project yet, but they're mostly CF, C as in cat, F as in Frank, kind of zone district uses throughout, with the exception of the self-storage facility. So you'll notice here that self-storage facility was actually written into the PCD, even though you don't see a layout of it within the project site. Further, as we're looking at the project site, it does involve these 4 purple buildings. Those are your commercial and restaurant buildings, with the remainder being the storage spaces. So as we were looking at it, and as you'll see the renderings, really what we were trying to look at was all of these frontages that are, highly visible from the main street sides, and then on the interior side, some enhancements along the ends of the buildings as you go through here, because one of the things that is included as well is there's a potential drive-through that comes through this backside and around the building that fits more than that 10-car queue, but they will see these interior portions of the building site. When they looked at this particular site, because of the adjacent properties that are down Blaze Drive, they wanted to have really a neighborhood commercial feel, and a little bit different than some of our other planned developments, is it had put down that architecturally they wanted a lot of gable roofs, pitched roof systems, and really didn't plan for any parapet systems, which is what we see a lot of today. So as we met with the applicant, we looked at what we thought the intent of it was, which is it needs to feel like it's neighborhood commercial, and make sure some of those detail features are included. The other thing that staff looked at is from the standpoint of the storage, the PCD actually talked about very little use of metal, but as most of us know, most of our storage units, the interiors of them usually have a brick or a split face block base, and then usually that architectural metal above, and then a cap. So in this case, we thought again that that might be more appropriate on these interior lines of the project site, in order to get a better product that's outwardly facing, that's along the right-of-way. within those sections. So that's something that we want Planning Commission to consider, but you are the design review body. But we, as staff, think that it's a reasonable request, given how things have changed since 2017 to current day for this particular project. As we're looking at the project again, let me go to the renderings. So these ones you saw probably late in the evening, maybe 6 o'clock when you got home. But here is what you see from Fortress Drive, and here's what you see down Blaze Drive. So previously they started with really parapets on the buildings, but you can see where tower features are included in all of the buildings. There's a lot of detail features with different types of straight canopies versus pitched canopies, but again, trying to anchor that corner of the property, and then each building having some anchoring on it as well. And then down at this side is where that very long storage building is, and then this is the office space that's related to that storage use as well. Looking at this particular elevation, and I have to look back for a second. Okay, so this portion is down as you're looking towards Blaze. I don't like this version as good as this one, because here you can see those detail corbels that are on the underside, so those are really pretty large overhangs for the roof system. And then as you're looking down the project site, you have again these tower features with pitched roofs coming on the sides, and then it steps down as you finish the end of the building. And this is the small section that you can see into the mini storage behind. That's maybe about a 20-foot in between the two buildings as you're going down Blaze. And then further down Blaze, this is that other building as you're coming down, and then Fortress you can see along this side, and of course the mini storage to the back of the project site. And these are pretty low buildings. Most of them are about 20 feet. The maximum height of all buildings on the site in the PCD is 35 feet, which the project does meet those requirements. Biggest challenge, I think, for all of the site, including the applicant, was really this side. This starts that mini storage section, so these are faux glass sections here, but we have stone bases with brick columns in between. And main thing that staff was looking for is it talks about primary building materials shall be brick and or stone. Other materials like an ephes or a dry bit are to be secondary materials. So when we look at these facades, we actually have a breakdown of what the cumulative is for all of those material types. And so this is, again, the end of the building, and it is a fully gated storage area that would serve the site. And then from an access standpoint, you only have one access off of Blaze. On Fortress, there's actually two entrances, and those are a right in, right out closest to the intersection, and then a full traffic movement on the corner lot. As far as the individuals, this particular page gives you a good viewpoint of all of the street coverages. So this is that primary coverage as you're looking all the way down Fortress. Blaze is a lot longer, so this building is the same thing as this one. But what you'll see is this section is the first to be on this side of the structure. So it's a pretty elongated section. And what, again, staff was wanting to make sure is that the mix of dry bit and those other materials was such to where the brick and the stone was the primary material type. And then individually, as you look building by building, these actually break down in this bottom right-hand corner, those components, and all of them now are meeting those specifics. And again, the main question for you all, and this is looking at those side or ends of those mini storage structures, is a brick column with a stone or brick base, and then allowing for that metal in between. And then here you can see again the metal with the roll-up doors through a lot of the project site. And then here's the most critical that we really worked, and we appreciate the working together with the applicant's architect team to be able to bring this to you today so that staff is not having to continue to tweak it after the fact of today's meeting. And then here you can see the various material types that they're using. So they're using for roofing materials, they're combining the asphalt shingles on those large tower features. On some of the lower canopies, they're including like a copper penny standing seam metal roof. And then, of course, some of that ephes and brick and stone type features for the project site. And then lastly, there we go. So we did make sure that the entire master plan project site does meet all our fire department specs, getting into and out and around the building point. But here again are those two access points, one here on Fortress, and then a full access point here, and then that one down at Blaze Drive. And then the only thing that staff did notice that we do need to add to the conditions is this particular building type, as it was worked through, actually now has all roll-up doors at that location versus having just the pedestrian doors. So we would want to make sure that the civil and the architecture plans are updated so that they're consistent with each other. And then lastly, as far as landscaping is concerned, there is a large tree preservation area. You can see by this plan, most of it is up by Puckett Creek, and it's in either the floodway areas or what we call our water quality protection area on this side of the creek. And so those will be preserved as part of the process. And then here, the GDO landscape standards actually apply to this particular PCD. So you'll see 5-foot base of building plantings instead of 3 feet. You'll see larger landscaping along the perimeter of the property. And those have been looked at as part of our staff comments for the entirety of the project. And last but not least, so a lot of the parking areas in front of these buildings actually are done with pavers. So where you see parking stalls in these whole lines, going back to the grading plans, you'll see a lot of porous pavers that is part of their overall drainage system, as well as having a large ponding site to the north portion of their project. That will be part of the overall scope and scale of this project. And last but not least, our formal open space. There's a couple of areas, one adjacent to the building here, in between the building on the back side of this building and here. So these are opportunities where basically if there are restaurant uses, those can provide for seating outside and improvements and enhancements for those spaces, and these are the detail features and they do meet our minimum standards. And with that, the applicant team is here. Should there be any questions for them on the project site? And again, the only, what I would suggest, if you are okay with the storage solution for the types of materials, we would suggest removing conditions 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10, because based on the new architecture that we've received, that would meet all of those conditions. But there is one condition, 4, we would like to replace with it, which would state civil land use data on the site buildings and plans, and those openings need to be consistent with the architectural site plan and unit information. So there's some small glitches in numbers. Just wanted to make sure we captured those as the project moves forward. And so with that, any other questions? The applicant is here.
So does the applicant understand what she just outlined? Okay, all right. If I understand it correctly, the only added use is the storage facilities, correct?
No, the storage facility was allowed in the PCD altogether.
Okay.
The main change was the way in which it discusses material types.
Okay.
This is probably a downgrade in the material types because it says that metal panels are to be sparsely used. And really on those interiors, it's used pretty heavily. But we think that because they're not visible really to the right-of-way, we wanted to enhance those sections that really were heavily visible.
Yeah, I really like the exterior of this, and the fact that it's got storage facility, you're not going to even know that it's there. So it looks really good to me. All right, any other questions or comments for Ms. Smith?
Yeah, my question, can we go back, which one of the building has a drive-through option?
That would be Building 1.
Building 1?
So it's this building right here. So did you want to look at the architecture on that?
No.
No? Yeah, so the drive-through comes down here, and then it comes out here. So the pickup window's right at this corner.
So it's building 2?
No, that's Building 1. But it's entering between Buildings 2 and 3.
Ms. Smith, can you zoom in on that?
Sure can.
Thank you.
Windows right there.
Here we go. So you can see the pickup window is here. Their menu boards would likely be kind of tucked in this back section. And then at this point is where we have that bypass lane that can come past it should somebody not want to stay in line. And from a parking standpoint, the whole shopping center is based on the 225, 1 per 225 square foot. I think it's like a neighborhood commercial standard. I always forget the specific name, but it's the 1 per 225, which allows up to 35% restaurant uses, and then the other uses are really retail related.
But they meet their parking requirements.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Starbucks on down Fortress. It's got the drive-throughs at the end of the building. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Smith or the applicant? If hearing none, do we have a motion?
Move for approval, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
And that's including the specifications that staff stated earlier. I see head nod.
Yes, Mr. Carroll nodded in the affirmative.
Yes, correct.
Thank you so much.
All right, next item, or next section is new business. The first item under new business where we would be scheduling a public hearing is a zoning application for approximately 13.4 acres located along Memorial Boulevard and Tillanook Lane to be rezoned from RS-15 Commercial Highway and Commercial Fringe to PCD. Goodwin Mills Kaywood is the applicant. Mr. Barbie.
Mr. Barbie, if I may interject something real quick before I forget. Mr. Wright, to answer your question earlier about the roundabout, Mr. Griffith conveniently came to the meeting to talk to Mr. Gord, so I was able to get a hold of Mr. Griffith, and he said that that everything is moving forward on that roundabout, that after SEC's design, the city has it funded to construct that, and that the goal is to have that roundabout open and functional prior to Cintas opening up the street.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, Mr. Barbie.
No problem at all. Good afternoon again. This next application before you is for a rezoning request for Kroger along Memorial Boulevard. Kroger is requesting rezoning from RS-15 CF to PCD, Planned Commercial District. in order to construct a new Kroger location on Memorial Boulevard. The current site is 3 separate parcels that they are proposing to combine into one site for the construction of the development. The site is located at the southwest corner of Tillanook Lane and Memorial Boulevard. That's directly to the west of Speedway. Speedway is just across the street on the eastern side, and Wilson Bank and Trust is at the opposite corner to the northeast of this location. Adjacent land uses you're going to see in that general area is commercial highway, again with the Speedway, the Wilson Bank and Trust, commercial fringe, as well as residential single family. You'll notice in the image the properties to the west are all zoned residential single family. We have an established Regency Park neighborhood to the west, and I believe this is Regency...
It's Northridge Park,
Northridge
and then
Park.
Palmer Heights to
Palmer
the
Heights.
south. Yeah.
To the south. In that area.
Excuse me.
Kroger is proposing the PCD in order to make sure that they're able to get the zoning and also to give Planning Commission their input as well. Kroger has limited the proposed uses on this site to the principal use that will serve the actual grocery store, as well as the accessory uses that you'll see typical of a Kroger location. So you may see flower sales or plant material sales, or they'll have a little clinic or some other type of medical facility inside the building as well. It also is proposing a fuel station and convenience store closer to the Memorial Boulevard side of the site. Design standards, the building that you're seeing as a part of the submittal with this package is the same building that they had at their previous location to the south. So it meets the design guideline standards for building materials, offsets, separations, void spaces, all of those different aspects that it would typically need to meet. Scroll through this, give you a little better image of it.
Mr. Barber, can I ask a real quick question?
Absolutely.
You had said that it's just the grocery store usage, so we're not talking about a grocery store in a strip mall like the location just south. This is a standalone grocery store?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
Inside the Kroger building itself, some of the stores, like the Innsbrook store, you've got a pharmacy,
Right.
You've got a little area on the side that sells flowers and balloons.
Right,
You've-
but no walk and roll and
But no
Jersey Mike.
white box spaces
Right,
in
okay.
addition to that are included as a part of this application.
Thank you.
No problem. Again, this is the use chart. When you do receive this for the public hearing, we're going to have an updated use chart that's more condensed and will be easier for both the public and staff to read as well. Did want to relay that a public neighborhood meeting was held on February 10th at the SportsCom. I feel like it was very well attended. I counted over 30 residents at the meeting at one time. I had a lot of really good discussion on the concerns of that area. I think the number one concern that I wanted to note was both existing and future drainage for the store itself, as well as regional drainage for that area and how it will work and prevent any flooding or any additional concerns. There were also conversations centered around increased traffic. Of course, there is right now an existing Kroger just to the south of this location that will be shuttered, and a new tenant will be inside that store as it moves forward. But there are concerns about increased traffic in this location. We did hear a concern about impact on property values as a commercial component comes next to them, and then potential negative noise impacts from vendor deliveries and deliveries to the store itself. So those are concerns that were expressed and that we're all taking into consideration with this plan. Again, this is here for you today to set a public hearing date. Staff is suggesting, March 11th of 2026 for the public hearing. I'm available if you have questions. I believe the representative from Kroger is here as well, and either of us would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I've got a few questions because I actually lived in Innsbrook, behind the Innsbrook location.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not really as concerned with the newer houses because this Kroger will be there before they are. But Palmer Heights and Regency Park, the trash collection was very, very loud on the back side of that location going towards the adjacent neighbors.
It is.
And can we get a clarification on how that's going to be handled? I mean, they would pick up trash at 3, 4 in the morning with residential houses right there. So I think that's a concern of mine, and then the buffering between the older houses and the store.
Okay.
Is that on the backside?
Backside.
Is that what
yeah.
you're talking about?
Yep.
I'm Randy Perry with Goodwood Mills Kaywood. We did address some of these things or discuss them at the neighborhood meeting. The way the trash is collected is on the backside of the building. There's a truck well that has a compactor, and the trash is loaded into the compactor from the interior, and then the truck comes and loads up the entire unit and leaves. As far as when that happens, that would be rolled in with the delivery discussion that we had, which there is a way that Kroger can get deliveries in the middle of the day and not after a certain time of day. So it wouldn't be at night deliveries or trash pickup.
Right. If I remember right, I mean, it's been several years, 3 or 4 or 5 years since I've been over there, but the deliveries weren't as noisy as the trash was. The trash was very loud. And I think their trash is a very similar collection. Just something to keep in mind of.
I'll have a better answer, but that's the way it works.
Okay, thank you.
And then you asked about the buffering.
Yes.
The back of the site, Palmer Heights goes about 2/3 along the western property line of this property, and then the northern third is the Northridge subdivision that's being built. I had a surveyor out this weekend. That was one of the things that came up at the neighborhood meeting, and we sent a surveyor out to look at the drip lines of the trees along that Palmer Heights portion of the property line. We have a plan in place. Well, we're working on a plan that will have a no disturbance zone under the drip lines to preserve those trees along that property line. In addition to that, there will be a type E buffer, which is a raised berm. That's a heavily planted evergreen buffer. That's from the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance. It would be the type E, which I don't know if that's the heaviest, but it's one of the more heavily planted buffers. And then that same truck well, there's a brick screen wall that extends where when the truck is delivering, you won't be able to see the truck itself. So they're in the truck well, and the brick screen wall is on the backside. There's also a separation from the western property line to our edge of pavement of 80 feet, and then the building is about 125 feet from the property line.
So it's further away from the houses than Innsbrook is also?
It is. We've moved it as far east towards Memorial.
Okay.
It really is to accommodate the buffering and the utilities that would be
Okay.
behind the store because of the easement requirements for those as well.
Thank you.
Is there a proposed fence, though?
No, sir.
Okay.
There is not a proposed fence.
So what's the sight line from Palmer Heights to the back of this building?
The sight line in
Yeah, I
terms
mean,
of elevation?
yeah, correct.
It'll
I
be
mean, are
about
you gonna
6 feet
you're
higher.
looking right back into the, I get the berm, but is the,
It's their backyard.
is their backyard going to be looking into the back of this facility?
Yes, they'll look, if you look east, you'll see the berm, the landscaping, the screen wall, and then the building.
Okay. Was there any discussion at the public meeting about a fence?
No, a fence is an option in the type E buffer. It
I'm
could
sorry?
be- A fence is one of the options
Yeah.
in the type E buffer, and we would entertain that. I think you reduce the planting when you replace it with the fence line, but the fence is something, we don't like them because it's a maintenance, it collects trash, it collects bags. However, it's certainly something we would entertain if you would prefer that over the buffer, the landscaping.
Mr. Halliburton, one of the things that they are doing that isn't required as a part of the buffer, well, they're doing a couple things. Normally, there would be a type D buffer required in between commercial highway and single-family residential. They're proposing a type E buffer, which would be normally between industrial and single-family residential. And they're also proposing a 4-foot berm in conjunction with the buffer, so that the materials would be placed on top of that berm to get extra height and screening from the rear of the Kroger development to those residents.
And that's the reason why I was asking about the sight line, so.
And we've pulled up the schematic site plan on your screens.
I feel like the buffer with planting on top is a better solution than a fence because trash, and I know what you mean. It's hard to pick up.
Yeah, I think, I'm personally a fan of berms because it's, kind of a more natural solution and less maintenance. Those plantings are on top of that berm than the fence. But a fence is certainly an option if the Planning Commission feels that's warranted, and that could be in lieu of, if you decided to require a fence, that could be in lieu of some of the required plantings or in addition to some of the required plantings.
Well, I mean, this neighborhood's not developed yet.
No, you got an existing neighborhood right here.
You do, it is existing, okay.
Well, you've got like 4 houses right here, and then you've got this new subdivision that's right here.
That's what I'm referring to,
These 4
okay.
houses right here, 3 are backed up right to the Kroger.
I see.
Yeah, and they don't really have any trees along the backside at all, so I mean, that buffer will help.
So of course, Vice Chair Everwater, you're correct. No houses on these 2 lots yet, but the development would border these 3 existing lots in Palmer Heights. And so Mr. Perry and his team have been really attuned to the fact that buffering is important at that location.
This is already zoned and started. And it is rezoning, our work's already started.
That's correct.
From residential, so.
Well, so I'll turn on the zoning layer here. Here we go. So there are 3 parcels total. The 2 northern parcels, which are the Alsip breeding parcels, are zoned RS-15, and the southernmost parcel, which is the Tolbert parcel, the front 3/4 of that parcel are zoned commercial highway, and the rear quarter of it is zoned commercial fringe.
Because I just always like to think about when they bought this house, what was the expectation? And other than, I guess, lot plat 2814, they all bought those properties with the expectation that there could be...
Well, depending on when they bought them, because I think these houses predate this was rezoned probably about 12, 14 years ago along Memorial Boulevard. So the houses themselves far predate the rezoning of the property along Memorial to commercial.
Or anyway, it's been done for a while.
Yes.
That makes me feel a little better about it.
We felt that one of the positives is that the future land use plan shows it a commercial use. And this is a bird in hand approach. This is what we would like to bring to this area that will likely be commercial at some point, especially with the growth in Murfreesboro. And with the exclusion, and this was Brad and Matthew felt that it was important to exclude many of the uses to show what would be allowed. Whereas tomorrow you could develop on the CH zoning something that may or may not be, and it's everyone's opinion, as desirable as a Kroger store. And the question earlier, there is no other retail as part of this, it's just the Kroger and the fuel center.
And I've pulled up the adopted future land use map that does show this as general commercial. The 2 parcels that are still zoned RS-15, I believe that those property owners had an opportunity to join with the other property owners and have them zoned commercial highway and commercial fringe back when the parcels to the south were rezoned. They chose not to at that time. And now that they are requesting to have them rezoned now, staff's guidance was that the only way that we would support it would be as a planned development, so that Planning Commission and City Council could have the oversight over that development, considering its proximity to the residential uses to the west.
I'm beating a dead horse. You know, fence or not, if there's any way we could see what the sight line would be from these lots to the rear of Kroger, that would help me a lot.
Ken, I think it's on page 12. It shows some pictures from the back property line looking.
Well, I meant if there's a way to, with the, I mean, sometimes we'll see where it gives a visual of where the berm is, and then what the people are actually have the sight line.
So
like it's once it's completed.
Like a perspective,
Exactly.
superimposing the building
Thank you.
on like a view from the backyard.
That's correct. That's what I'm looking for.
What's the height of the building?
A rendering.
Yeah.
Mr.
That's
Perry,
nice.
Mr. Prince just asked what the height of the building was.
Yeah.
The height is just under 40 feet.
And I mean, even for sound abatement, I would rather have a berm than a, you know, I'm always big on sound. It always travels horizontally. So
Yeah.
you got four in there. I can hear that sound in my mind when you're talking about the trash picking, drop the dumpsters.
Yeah, exactly. You're picking up a dumpster, but you're dropping a dumpster, so
I think a berm would be a lot more,
I agree.
would work a lot better.
Mr. Perry, can you generate a drawing similar to what Mr. Halliburton is?
We can. The 3D perspective, I don't know how accurate that would be, but we can do essentially like a profile for the backyard, someone standing there, and then looking up at the height of the building, so you can see the top of the building.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
And at least the backyards are pretty.
Yeah, and I can
Like
speak,
Innsbrook, you know, those ones that bump.
well, even on Innsbrook, with the big pine trees, I mean, you didn't see it was pretty blocked off.
There's a lot closer.
Right, it's a lot closer too.
Is the elevation pretty flat from the Kroger to those existing houses? Or are those houses?
No,
Higher.
we would fill the rear of this site to raise it so that operationally it works with Memorial, and there's a bit of a balance there, cut and fill and Tillinook, but it's about 6 feet of fill on that. You would offset the drip line, and you start to toe the slope. You go to 6 feet, and then you've got another berm, another 4-foot berm on top of that, and then to the building. And on the berm is the evergreen screen.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the applicant or Mr. Barbie?
I'll move to set the public hearing for March the 11th.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Averwater.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. All right, next item is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance related to minimum rear yard requirements for single-family residential uses and pertaining to Chart 2, minimum lot requirements, minimum yard requirements, and land use intensity ratios. The City of Murfreesboro Planning Department is the applicant, and Mr. Blomley's handling it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is just a small zoning ordinance amendment that we bring before you that we think could have a pretty sizable impact on builders and homeowners. What we've discovered especially on, there are a handful of streets that we've encountered this on multiple occasions, is that there are some existing lots that are pretty old, but that are really, really shallow. And those existing lots make it really hard, once you factor in the setback requirements, for folks to build onto their homes, for folks to redevelop those lots, tearing down the older, more dilapidated housing in favor of newer housing stock. And so, really, we don't want to put our Board of Zoning Appeals in a position of having to act on a variance request for something that may or may not meet the standards for a variance. And so, because this has come up several times, we thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and move forward with a zoning ordinance amendment to help those folks who have those shallow lots to be able to create some practical opportunities for them to build on those shallow lots. And so we're recommending that that for all lots 80 feet in depth or less that were in existence as of April 1st, 2026, which was just the date that I put on there because that's approximately when this would be going to City Council, should it make it through Planning Commission, that there be a reduced setback of 10 feet on those lots instead of whatever the minimum rear setback is on those lots under normal circumstances. So we're trying to grant some setback relief for folks so that they can have a more sizable building envelope for those lots that are shallow and hard to build on. So be happy to answer any questions, and we would, staff would recommend a public hearing date of March the 11th on this as well.
So the only question I have, is this specific to a specific overlay, or is this across the city?
It's citywide, and I think for new lots, or lots that have been created over the last, 20 years or so, I mean, we're getting lots that are buildable. I think this speaks more to older lots. For example, the couple of streets that we've dealt with several times on this are East Street and West Street off of Greenland Drive, which both of those streets have really, really shallow lots. And there was one instance where the applicant got a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and that was when we were a little bit more lenient in our guidance regarding variances, and since then we've kind of tightened up to make sure that we were in compliance with state law. And so we try to avoid variances when possible, just because there are just such few circumstances where the board actually where someone can prove to the board that they're meeting all of the criteria. And so we figured, rather than put people in the position of having to apply for a variance and the board from having to act on a variance, that we would bake some relief into the zoning ordinance itself for those lots.
So it's 20 feet now, and you're saying 10 feet?
Yeah, depending on the zoning district, it would be the standard rear setback for single family, and this is only for single family detached uses, would be between 20 and 30 feet. And so this would bring that down to a 10-foot rear setback.
No matter what it was before, they're all 10?
Correct. But only on lots that are 80 feet in depth or less.
All right, any other questions?
Move to set the public hearing March the 11th.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Vice Chair Ava Water.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. The next item on our agenda is staff reports and other business. Our director had another meeting he had to go to at 2. Mr. Blomley, do you have anything to add at this point?
The only thing is, I know it's apparent because of the last 2 actions y'all took, but our first meeting in March is on the second Wednesday of the month instead of the first Wednesday of the month. It'll be March the 11th. And at this point, we do anticipate having a joint conceptual workshop at 4:30 on that same day, but we'll let you know for certain as soon as we can.
All right, with that, seeing no other business, we're adjourned.